There's been 6 solo Superman films, and yet the one that we're getting next feels like the most important one. And we're going to tell you why. And welcome to a very special live stream edition of the Vigilante 1939 podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Nick Zendick. And joining me, Daddy Batman, Mr. Caruso himself, Nick Caruso Jr. How you doing, Mr. C?
I'm doing really good. I had my car keys and then I don't know right now. So let's start the show. Maybe I can find them.
It's going to be a very super
during
time.
the show. We'll see what
There
happens.
You go.
Okay.
There you go. Well, I said it right off the top here. So this has been something that I've been planning for quite some time. I wanted the timing to be just right. Spoiler alert, if you saw Black Adam, I think the timing is just right now. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of interesting things to digest here. A lot of news as of late since Black Adam. But the hottest topic of the DC universe, Mr. C, is he in? Is he out? What do we do with Superman? So just kick it off here. So the biggest thorn in the DCU side obviously was, is Henry Cavill going to be Superman or not? Spoiler alert, if you've seen Black Adam, I'm going to assume you did. If not, you probably shouldn't be here. Is he was in the post-credit scene. So we're all assuming he's the guy now. But just talk to me about the status of Superman. How did it feel to see him back? And let's kick this off here.
I'll tell you what, after so much time and speculation and doubt of whether we would ever see him return, Black Adam, the end credit scene was incredible. It was so uplifting and inspirational. And not only was the scene great, not only did he look great and it was perfect, then Henry himself took to Instagram, I believe, and really gave everybody hope about the future of what to expect, what to come. And I know for myself, I think I said on our podcast, I was in the car, I was driving, and I had to pull into a parking lot and watch that thing. And I'll admit, I was a little bit like really excited, and my contacts were bothering me a little bit.
Yeah,
I had to wait. I had to get him back into focus, and I felt really good. And it just was something that we talk about all the time, where we say Superman is really the key to a connected DC universe, right?
Yep.
They can do their individual movies, and they can even do a solo Superman movie too. But based on what we've been hearing from David Zaslav and the crew, they're looking to connect. They're looking to have something similar to the MCU. You got to have Superman. As we bring our guests in and you talk Z, unfortunately, there's been some news now that maybe it's not all that we think it is. So I'm glad we're doing this tonight here so that we can discuss it and everybody give their opinion and idea of what we think is really going to happen going forward.
Exactly. And of course, the focal point of this whole stream is that, we got a great lineup, great guests here. Is we all love Superman here. We all want him on the big screen. We all love the character. We all understand his importance to the DC universe. And that's what this stream, the focal point of this stream, is all about. So obviously, of course, I got it right there. 6 solo films from 78 to 87. It took a break. Now we got one in 2006. Got one in 2013. He was in Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice with Batman. And he was in Justice League in 2017. So that was the last real time that we saw a Superman on the big screen prior to Black Adam. So, but of course, let's now start the conversation. The meat potatoes are here. And we can't talk about Superman without Mr. Superman on film himself, Mario Francisco Robles.
Hey,
Mario, welcome back to the show, sir.
I just have a question. Am I the meat or the potatoes? I don't know.
You're both.
Oh, wow.
You're whatever you need to be, Mario.
I'm wherever your car keys are.
That's right. I don't know where they're at. I had them.
Yeah.
Nice.
I had them for a while.
So guys, this is real. We have some Superman stuff to discuss now. Whether or not it's as great as it sounds, or as it sounded about a month ago, we're going to get into that. But the mere fact that there is like some serious Superman buzz in the air, and that there's a very, very strong likelihood of us seeing more of Henry Cavill Superman now. It's hard to believe, right? After all these years of us being these long-suffering DC fans and Superman fans and fans of all these Justice League characters, now here we are in a zone where we can actually like really discuss his future on film. This is really exciting, and I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Well said.
You,
well
friend.
said. All right, so let's continue to bring everybody on board here. So from Batman on Film, longtime fan of all of ours, he is Javi True himself.
Javi hey, what's up, fellas?
What's up, my guy?
How's it going?
Very good, my friend.
I think this is my first vigilante show where it wasn't like a tailgate or anything.
There might have been some tailgating going on beforehand, but that's
right, yeah.
We won't disclose that information.
Yeah. Like, is this a vigilante proper show then?
There you go.
Because I've teamed up with you and Chris for World's Finest.
Yep.
Which you two definitely are some of the world's finest. So
Thank
I'm happy to be on here with you guys and with Mario for the first time, and some awesome other guests that are coming on. This is going to be great.
Well said. Well, one of the things for sure is we are all geeks. And from Gathering of the Geeks podcast is the Northman himself, Mr. Emmett Davis.
Hi.
How's it going, Emmett?
It's going great. I'm incredibly honored and happy to be here talking to everyone. So thank you so much for having me on, everybody.
Emmett. Nice.
It's well said. All right. And this last gentleman is known for doing a lot of crime out in the night.
That's quite an intro.
Much like Batman. If he's late, it always means he's busy, but he's not busy tonight. So from the Nerd Room podcast, Carlos himself. How you doing, Carlos?
Man, there's no one on this planet that could stop me from appearing on this live stream.
Thank you. And there's no one that looks better than
was whether or not that line was going to be said tonight.
There's no one on this planet. Yeah. It's great.
Well, I do.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Super. Just super.
That's the word I'm looking for. There you go. Super. So, all right. Well,
I'm stoked. Stoked to be here. Stoked to be reuniting the V39 and Mario. I think this is our first time. This is a treat, man. So
it is, yeah. We've had a lot of Twitter interplay, but never done one of these together.
I know, man. We've had some Twitter team ups against those who would besmirch the good name of our favorite son of Krypton and others. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then my pals Emmett and Javi. This is gonna be a good time tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm so ready.
There you go. All right, gentlemen. So I'm going to take this conversation in one way, deviating a little bit. But of course, like me and Mr. C opened up here, we got to talk about the elephant in the room here. And that is the guy that made his return to the role of Superman. And that is Henry Cavill. Now, obviously, we've all seen interviews with him post the movie. He's been very vocal that people want him back in the role. He's been vocal that there's plans going on behind the scenes. We know none of what is going on behind the scenes, but we should address the topic. Is Henry Cavill the guy? So Mario, I think you should be the one that kicks this off. So now that you've seen him back in the role, you've seen Man of Steel, you've seen BVS, assuming the status of what the DC universe is now, is Henry Cavill the guy? Should he be the guy?
Oh, I think he absolutely has to be the guy. He's the only guy, because right now we're in a space where, coming into the future of what DC on film looks like, right? We look at all the core Justice League characters, and most of them are still who they were a few years ago. It's still Jason Momoa as Aquaman. It's still Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. It's still currently Ezra Miller as the Flash. We're even going to get a little more, Ben Affleck Batman thrown in the Flash, and possibly in Aquaman, if rumors are to be believed. So to recast Superman or go back to the, start all over again with a new Superman amidst this would make very little sense. And it seems very clear that David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery, they're not into the whole multiverse thing. There was an interesting quote last week where David Zaslav went out of his way to say there will not be 4 Batmans. Okay, we're going to have, it's all going to make sense. It's going to be unified. It's going to be a thing. So if we're going to go the shared universe route, and you've got a perfectly good Superman here in Henry Cavill, who is eager, ready, and willing to play the part some more, as well as a legion of fans who want him back. You would be ridiculous to go, forget all that. We're just going to start all over again and reboot Superman in a pocket universe, and what they were going to do as of a few months ago. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of set the stage there, it's like, yes, he has to be the guy. And just to kind of recap, like how, like that wave of news that came after Black Adam, because it came from all these different ends, and that's what makes the recent sort of like debunking that came from the Wrap sort of curious to me, because as Mr. Caruso brought up, it was like shortly after Black Adam came out, Henry Cavill himself took to Instagram with a little highlight reel and an image, and in that he also said, "This is just the start." Just the start. There's a lot more to come. Then 3 days later, he has an interview with Josh Horowitz, and again is talking about the future and the types of stories he wants to tell. Then The Hollywood Reporter and Variety and Deadline, all these major trades, all tagged in with their own variation of saying the studio wants Henry. They're very keen and very eager to continue with his Superman, and that they seem to be fast tracking everything, and they're currently speaking to writers and directors. So all of that came in like rapid succession in like a few days.
Yep.
So
he left The Witcher.
Yeah, and he dropped The Witcher. So to me, it's like all the signs point to, yes, he's the guy. Not only should he be the guy, but he will be the guy, despite some of this uncertainty that was recently sort of chucked at us.
There you go. So let's, obviously, I want to elaborate on it even more, because I want to go this back to you, because obviously, look, you can kind of spin this in any way you want. Like, obviously, Cavill can be the short-term guy. Maybe he's not the long-term guy, but is he the guy right now? What do you think, Amit?
Yeah, I agree with everything Mario just said, that he is the guy for the world that they're building right now, because like he said, Momoa and Godot and everyone are still involved. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have started over if they wanted to, but they missed that chance. They've long missed that chance to do that. As for him being the Superman long term, that's kind of up to Cavill, I suppose, and what story they're wanting to tell. For me personally, I've been on the bandwagon for reboot the whole thing for a long time, but again, they've squandered that opportunity. They've done it a couple of times. They've had the opportunity to do that and then chose not to. So personally, I would love a younger Superman, but Cavill is great. I have no issues with the Cavill Superman. I have no issues with most of the movies or all of the movies that Cavill is in as Superman. But for me personally, I do feel like the long term, if we're talking about 10 years, I can't imagine Cavill being Superman in 10 years. I really can't. Just for age, unless they're doing Kingdom Come or something where he's just an older Superman, which is highly possible. But just for me personally, I feel like a younger Superman, a younger universe, because we're talking about older actors. Same with Momoa. Can you see him as Aquaman in 10 years? I don't really know. So it's all about their plans. It's all about what story they want to tell. And I think with the choice that Mario was talking about keeping Cavill, they're telling a specific story with this specific Superman. So I think it's going to make sense with this older Superman, Cavill Superman, older character going forward. If he does stick around for a 10-year plan or 4-year plan or whatever they're working on.
There you go. And also real quick, just to touch on that, because obviously I do think it's funny, because I believe he's actually been on record saying, I think he was like 28 when he filmed Man of Steel, and he got asked by Josh Horowitz because they're looking to cast James Bond, and obviously they're like, well, we're gonna do a James Bond in his 30s, and it's like, how old are you, Cavill? He's like, I'm 39. So again, this is just wild to me, that obviously like how long the guy's been in the role, and we're over here speculating that he could potentially want to do this for another 10 years, but that's neither here nor there. So, Javi, same question to you. Should Henry Cavill be the guy? Where's your head at?
Yeah, I think he should be the guy, like no question about it. I really don't feel like he's gotten his chance. Like everyone's discussed, ad nauseum, like Batman v Superman wasn't really a sequel to Man of Steel. Henry Cavill's not in it very much. And similar to what like Emmett was saying, like I don't see there being a problem with an older Superman. Like we've already gotten audiences used to Superman as a dad, because not everyone has access to the CW, but we're on season 3 now being filmed of Superman and Lois. It's a huge hit overseas. So the world is getting more and more accustomed every day to a Superman who's not in his 20s. Cavill still looks really good for 39, almost 40. And given, the current state of things, like it's probably going to be, and this is, jumping ahead a little bit, but I can't imagine we're going to get a movie in the next 3 years, just development time. So I think he's still going to look good. And I don't think it's a problem having an older Superman. And we've already seen that in live action now with Brandon Routh as Kingdom Come. So I think if Cavill's game, and I don't see why he wouldn't be, he could hang on to this until like his mid 50s. The interesting thing that Mario touched upon with the timeline, the Witcher news is interesting, because that, like I said, they're not shooting tomorrow. Like they don't have a director, they don't have a script. Effects take time, especially with the way the climate is right now. Like we're seeing all these movies delayed, these tent poles, because of the special effects. So quitting The Witcher right now, like he's got time. He could have done another season. To me, that was more of a power move of, I'm clearing out my schedule. I want to do business with you guys. Keep me in this role. Like he's putting in his chips that, whatever Safran and Gunn are coming up with is going to involve him. So, I mean, we'll see in a couple of years, but I think that was more of like a good faith gesture on his part, because he's a busy guy. He's got Argyle and a couple of other things in the pipe. So, I mean, can only be a good faith gesture on his part.
There you go. So, Carlos, I'm going to pass this one over to you. So, obviously, look, we all love Cavill as Superman. The look has never been the problem with him. It's more so the material that he's been giving. So, assuming he is going to still be the guy, can they get this right with Cavill? Or are they better off just finding someone else? And this is going to segue into our next topic. What do you think?
Oh, no, like he is absolutely the guy. I think with Superman, more so than so many other characters, the look is a key part of it. Like Superman doesn't have the benefit of an overly ornate costume or a mask, obviously. So the look is going to be a big barrier to a lot of people for your actor. And like that Henry Cavill looks like he was cast to play the role helps, right? And he's in fantastic shape. He doesn't look his age as it is now. And going forward, like you could probably squeeze 15, 20 years out of this guy. And we've been watching Marvel movies where they're retouching their actors already in post-production. What's to say that you can't, shave a few years off of the face of your Superman going forward, right? Not that we want to, whistle past graveyards too much with manipulating our Superman's face on film.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But yeah, like he's got the look. I think he's got the right amount of charm and charisma. Like you look at him deliver the lines at the beginning and the end of the theatrical version of Justice League, right? There was something so heartwarming and charming, and you felt like you could really trust that Superman on the screen at the beginning of the movie as he's talking to the young kids. And then something just so playful and joyful and so welcoming to be around with that scene with Barry at the end. Just even simple things like I've always wanted to go west, and he points the other way kind of thing, right? Like he just needs the right material probably having a better Lois will enhance that as well. And I think we are going to get that. And the biggest ace in the hole that they have to getting it right is that James Gunn is the shepherd of the whole thing. So he's going to be the guy that can steer the ship. And, there's going to be script decisions that your writing room and your director might come up with that are going to be incongruent with what not only his vision of Superman is for the universe that he's crafting, but also what Henry Cavill wants to do in the role and what audience will want to embrace. And he's in the position to be able to guide that forward. So, yeah, I think they're in a great spot to get it right. I think they know they have to get it right. And Gunn knowing character, just in general, character within these comics, and Superman in particular being a pretty easy one to get right. Like there's no mysteries with it. Yeah, I don't see how it's not a total win, and you need Henry Cavill's face. Like, honestly, part of what held them up from moving Superman forward is that poor bastard's face was indelibly linked to the most detested movie that they put out. So why not use it to your advantage at this juncture? So, yeah, I think it's the right choice, and I think they can make it work. Absolutely.
Nice. Okay, so we're all in agreement. Of course, we would love to see him continue on in the role. We obviously hope that he's going to continue on in the role. We want Man of Steel 2. We've wanted it for years. He obviously wants it, but there's a new regime in charge, and just because one person wants something doesn't mean another person wants it. So what we do know, yes, is that obviously David Zaslav has put James Gunn and Peter Safran in charge of DC Studios, now formerly DC Studios. There's reportedly a 10-year plan to get DC back on track here. So we were talking a little off air here, so let's now take this conversation in a little bit different direction. A reboot, a recast. So, assuming everything we've just said in the last 10 or 15 minutes here, Mr. C, a reboot or recast of Superman. Obviously, assuming they're going to do the whole Justice League at this point. You can't just do Superman.
Yeah.
Would this be the right call for a more organic way of storytelling? Can they even do that MCU phase 1 type thing with all these characters? Where's your head at with the possible recast of Superman? Maybe not so much of a reboot, but of a recast. What do you think?
Well, here, the only thing that I could think of in light of some of the certain rumors and not knowing what James Gunn has up his sleeve, because Gunn could always make the argument and say that that Cavill's never been a big box office draw. I'm going to take the other side here and try to put myself, because Gunn's had a very successful career at the MCU. He's taken this unknown team and made them household names and done a lot of money. So far, DC, he made a great Suicide Squad movie that suffered from the pandemic, did nothing in the theaters, but critically acclaimed. And the Peacemaker show was fun on HBO. I don't know what kind of ratings it has. They don't release that. So he has not, in my opinion, made his mark yet with the general audience. I don't know where his head is at, because he's about as creative a guy as there is. What I'm concerned about is that Cavill's here for next year, and that what we have is the end. And when I mean the end is that you're going to get Shazam, you're going to get the Flash and Aquaman. Maybe that's the end of the DCEU, and there is a reboot and recast that comes forward. So that's all I could say about that. I'm more interested in what everybody else thinks, because the pessimist in me feels like that's where we could be headed.
Emmett, what do you think of a possible recast or reboot of Superman? Where's your head on that one?
Well, I would have totally understood if they decided to do that. And I was, the idea of just having a Superman on screen, on, movie theaters or TV screen, it is important to me. It's not who plays the Superman. So like I understood the previous regime's idea of not wanting Cavill because they thought he was, a link to the Snyderverse or something that had to do with bad box office. So I understood the idea of them wanting to do the period piece Superman that they talked about, and then the Calvin Elvis one that they talked about as well. So I understood all that, and I was game for it because it was a Superman. So again, like I'm cool that Cavill's coming back. It's great. That just means we're getting more Superman, which I'm totally cool with. But like I said, I don't know how it plays into the 10-year thing. So I would have been okay with a recast, 100%. I would have had no problem if they found another Superman that wasn't Henry Cavill. But I'm on the flip side, totally okay with Henry Cavill as well, just because it means more Superman. And I assume a different Superman than what we have seen before, because of who will be eventually, I assume, writing and directing, and as well as picking who writes and directs the Superman.
Well said. Yeah, I think one of the more interesting things, like I said, about his portrayal of Superman is that, a lot of the complaints are, especially in Justice League, whichever version you prefer, obviously, is that he's not actually with the Justice League. Right now, whatever side of the fence you fall on that one, that's my version of Superman that I want. That animated series Superman that, is the de facto leader of the Justice League. So, Javi, can Henry Cavill be that Superman? And if not, should they find somebody that can? Is there somebody else that can be that version? What do you think?
I mean, there probably is someone else that could be that. I mean, Tyler Hoechlin's doing a great job on the small screen. But there's just something about the physicality of Cavill that he just looks like he walked off the comic page. And I think we probably are going to see a reboot in some way, shape, or form, because this is all going to be post Flash. And as for recasting, as much as I liked a lot of the characters that people who got cast in the roles, I think just ditch everybody but Cavill to differentiate, that this is something fresh and different. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on, but we've seen enough multiverse stuff that I think everyone can make the jump and understand, because we've seen different roadies, we've seen different Hulks, and that's all the same universe. So it shouldn't be too hard of a concept for year 12 or 13 of year 14 of the MCU. Yep. I don't think people will have a problem seeing that there's different actors and that we're in a new universe now. Let's keep Henry and just keep plugging forward. In the chat roll, I'm in agreement with Garrett. I'd love to see Alexandra Daddario, take a shot at Lois Lane and let's mix it up a little bit. I mean, we had some great actors and actresses in the prior movies, but let's try something new.
There you go. All right, so let's now deviate over to, again, reboot, recast. Let's put all of that aside. Let's talk about what I think everybody wants us to give now, and that is, what story do we want them to tell to get Superman right? So, Mario, Mr. Superman on film himself, what story does DC need to tell to get this character right and to resonate the way that he should obviously resonate with audiences? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, look, I've always felt that Superman works best when the threat that he has to face isn't just a cool villain that he has to face, but also somehow like an ideological threat. Something where Superman has to overcome the idea of something, where Superman has to instill hope by dealing with a threat that is somehow, that there is an ideological correlation. So I have the story in my head for Brainiac, and I brought it up before on my show, but just I have this idea for Brainiac as a form of super AI that us humans initially are super excited about, similar to like Alexa in Siri. It's this cool thing that has popped up with some sort of dubious financial backer, that everyone just loves the ease of everything and the way it brings them all the information they need about everything and so on and so forth. And at first, this amazing AI seems to be like a friend and a great aid to humanity. But slowly but surely, we discover that this is actually the Brainiac, artificial intelligence. And what it's trying to do is starting to sow misinformation and starting to try to turn us against each other and trying to keep Earth at war and get it to destroy itself so that Brainiac can have us, or something along those lines. And Superman, who now has to try to instill hope, inspire the masses, and get people to realize what's going on while also dealing with whatever physical threat Brainiac there is going on there. So I've always kind of had an idea in my mind for something along those lines. And in general, I just feel like any villain Superman fights, it has to mean something. It can't just be him punching something over and over again. You know, the conclusion, the point of the battle, he's fighting for our souls. He's fighting for something bigger than just stopping this big threat. So to me, like at its core, that's kind of how I hope they approach the story. I hope the story has something to say, and I hope Superman inspires hope along the way. And I hope it has something to say about the world we currently live in. Because I personally feel like his mission on Earth works best as a sort of correlation for like Krypton lost its way. Its people lost its mind through hubris, through destroying its natural resources, through starting wars with other planets, through whatever. So we're not going to, we don't want Earth to end up that way. So Kal-El, you're going to go there and try to stop them from ending up the way we did. And I really want something that really frames his mission on Earth in that way.
That's beautiful.
That's
like
beautiful. So
I
Carlos,
hope James Gunn is listening.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah. Is he one of the people in the commentary? I think he actually might be.
He's the only one that knows.
He is the only one that knows
what's going on.
No, I think Batman might know.
He makes it very clear.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, like I am on very much the same page as Mario in a lot of respects, in that I want the movie to be about the heart and soul of Superman and what he means, and really lean into him being that aspirational figure. In that, if you look at the world around us, anybody with power is typically not really willing to help out those in a lesser position. So I think they really need to, in order to sell Superman to a modern audience who is kind of jaded, who's kind of beat down, there's a lot of lonely people, you need to showcase a movie in which you have the most powerful being on the planet who chooses to submit himself and act as a servant to the rest of the world and the rest of humanity. So I'd like to see them do something like the Straczynski run, like Superman Grounded, where he was just walking across America. Like, I don't want that story, but the heart of that story, where it's him in intimate interactions showing that people matter to him, where he's not only showing the importance of people to him, but the importance of people to themselves. And I think the first movie would be smaller. I absolutely wouldn't do Brainiac, but I would establish your Lex. I would build your Metallo into it so you can have some spectacle. You can work in some of that military complex type of stuff with Metallo, and you can show the opposite end of the ledger, right? You can show that powerful businessman, the pharma bro guy, all those kind of things, and how he hasn't used his power to help anybody except himself. And you can showcase the military complex through Metallo and maybe being somebody who submits himself into having these horrible things happening to him. And then we get a bit of the spectacle. We get to see what Superman's all about, and off we go. And you can maybe tease your Brainiac there for a second movie. And as you go through your DCU, I would like to see him do a team up movie either with Supergirl or do something multiversal where he meets Calvin Ellis and you get to see a whole different type of Superman, and you could probably have some high spectacle stuff. And then what I think you build to for your third movie and your Justice League finally showing up is the Brainiac movie, is Panic in the Sky. Because that was in the 80s. That was the big event that brought that Superman to have all the heroes rally around him, because Brainiac was that big of a threat. And then if you want to add the layers of him being the Brainiac of Krypton, awesome. If you want to have him just being from Kolu and being this collector, awesome. If you want to just have this cold calculating Brainiac the collector who's trying to quantify things, that works out awesome. If you've established Superman showing the importance of humanity and of people and of spirit, then Brainiac is the antithesis of that, where he sees humanity as something to be quantified, right? So that would lead to an amazing third movie. And if you've built to that, and if you've got your audience spot in, and if they love your Superman and what he's all about, you've got your multi-billion-dollar trilogy capper, where it's like, I get to see this guy with Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Batman. Pooh, there you go, man. So that's my pitch. Sorry, I know I was only supposed to do one movie, but
no,
there's your 10-year plan.
James Gunn, you taking notes?
There you
I
go.
hope he's listening, man.
I think we gave him a 20-year plan, so all the more the merrier on that one. So Emmett, I think there is something to obviously be said is that, like Batman, his rogues gallery is so rich. Granted, it may not be as rich as Batman's, but I mean, if we really think about it, we've seen Lex Luthor multiple times. We've seen Zod multiple times. We obviously fought Doomsday and Batman vs Superman. So, is there something to be had that we really have yet to really explore his rogues gallery, and can we even do that? In a Superman movie, or are we just tied to the same villains that we've seen before?
Can I just say though that's one of the reasons why I'm actually glad that he's older. That if we are going to continue on from Henry, who's at 39 and going to be a more, not a rookie Superman anymore.
Yeah,
is that it gives us a chance to get like deep into Superman's career here is like how I like to think of it, because we've seen the origin told twice and virtually the same origin, the whole Zod thing. Like we've seen the Superman start twice, both the Donner origin and the Snyder Nolan origin were virtually the same.
Yeah.
And then that one, he went straight into dying in movie 2 and then coming back. But like, we never really got to see what that Superman would have done, with any amount of time here on Earth. And even with Christopher Reeve, like Superman 3 and 4, I don't really count those random, the Richard Pryor situation and Nuclear Man as like really diving into Superman's mythology there. Like we have 80 years of stories to tell now with having like a Superman who's not just starting out. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of his career as the Man of Steel. That actually excites me that he's not a kid at this point. Well, it's one of the reasons I love Superman and Lois, by the way. We get to actually like see Superman doing stuff beyond just surviving Krypton's explosion and fighting the first big villain.
There you go. I mean, what story do you want to tell on the big screen?
I have no idea, but one thing that I like from the Superman that I like, whether it's Superman and Lois or Man of Steel or Tomasi's Rebirth run, is family. And maybe with the older Superman, you can do that now. Having a John Kent is very important, I think, to this Superman now, especially with the stuff that they're doing with the Tom Taylor and Philip Kennedy Johnson runs. And for me as a father, seeing a Superman with a son would be everything to me. And just the family aspect of like everything that I love about Man of Steel is the family aspect of it. Everything that I liked about Superman and Lois is the family aspect to it. So the big villain, you guys have already named all the big villains that they should do and that they haven't done to this point, and that would be all great. But just something about having his family, whatever that is, and I'm not sure how you do that now. Lois was pregnant in Zack Snyder's Justice League, so maybe they blend that in somehow. I have no idea. But just having Superman have a family, I think is important to me as a Superman fan, as a father as well. And the big bad, that stuff for my taste can write itself. There's lots of big bads that haven't been done yet for Superman on the screen. So giving a fresh take on Brainiac or Metallo or what the fuck that guy's name, Mr. Pittick or whatever his name is.
Mr.
Somebody can help me out with that one. Thank you. There's lots of that. There's lots of
that. Parasite.
Say his name.
Parasite. Bizarro.
Exactly. There's lots of bad guys, but and it's not about who Superman punches to me. It's who he's protecting with those punches. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
And yes, Brainiac would have his skull ship hobby. He absolutely has to have the
skull. Thank God. Point out the movie that that's the case, right? All right. So, Mr. C, I want to take this one back over to you because obviously you've actually made a pitch on our main show here that, you've obviously pitched a rom-com Superman movie. Well, not like rom-com Superman,
right.
But, the veins of that being, the crux of the movie. And obviously we've had Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman, obviously, the TV show. So it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility. Not that it ever was, but what story do they obviously need to tell to get this character right?
Here, I can't add anything to what these guys said in the story. I would also add that they should probably do a rewatch of the Superman animated series and just pluck bits and pieces out of that thing. Yep. What I'm focusing on now for Superman to it's not about us. It's about the general audience, right? Because we've all got good ideas. We could watch Cavill play it. They need let me take it in this direction because everybody's got a great story. They need some real star power in this movie. They need something to draw the GA back. It's not just Cavill either. It's not just him. As much as I love him, it's not going to move the needle. I know this is going to sound like a cliche, but I saw Robert Downey Jr. bald, and I thought to myself, I would go to him now and say, "You are going to be the Lex Luthor." Forget Eisenberg right now. We're gonna try to do something different, right? It also has to be a powerful love story. There's got to be that real understanding of love between him and Lois, and a little bit sex too. Let's be honest, that sells. And I never bought it with Amy Adams and Henry. I just don't.
Wait, you're saying they should have some kind of chemistry?
Yes, sir.
Come on.
And not when Metropolis is all ripped up and they kiss at the end of Man of Steel, which is just a horrible.
I have a bit of human ash on my lip.
Mario, right? People are dead by the hundreds.
So much for getting married in a chapel.
And they decide to kiss, and then he decides to go back and fight. And I don't know who the young lady is. I mentioned Dakota Johnson just because I visualize her as Lois Lane, but there's a lot. The young lady mentioned earlier. He would play evil Tony Stark. I get it. I know. But think about him reaching out to Brainiac, reaching out to somebody, and then being manipulated back and being a pawn in it all over the course of a trilogy. You need star power. I don't know who they're going to get, but they need a major actor to come on board to this franchise if Cavill's going to stay in the suit. Even if Cavill doesn't stay in the suit and you cast a younger guy, I don't know who's got that kind of charisma. Is Timothée Chalamet going to be Superman? I don't think so.
No.
Right. Is the kid who
Superman's taking crap thicker than
is the kid who played Elvis going to be Superman?
I mean,
I'm just trying to think of some young actors here that are going to. Is Harry Styles going to be Superman? I mean,
Chalamet would be like a good Flashpoint Superman,
right?
Where he's
who's going to attract?
Been under the red sun the whole time and skinny,
right? But you need somebody that the audience, the younger kids, are going to go see. Now, if it's Cavill, I think they will, but then you got to surround him with mega star power. And Marvel's doing it now. They're casting everybody, right? I mean, they got Harrison Ford. I mean, you can do it. I don't think you could do a Superman trilogy with like.
I don't know, man. I lost all faith in that Harrison Ford casting when I saw that indie pick, and I was like,
I know.
This guy looks like he walked away from the seniors' home, and the police are looking to bring him back.
I would agree.
Oh man. Man.
But for me, I agree with what you're saying, but I think the star that you're looking for is your actress who plays Lois Lane.
I think you're right.
I think she needs to be the biggest name that you can.
Who is it though, Carlos? Who do you think though? Honestly,
Beyonce. I don't know. Well, actually, to be honest, I am all for them casting a Black or Latina actors for Lois, and I think that is where you'll find the bigger star. You
rip Zendaya out of.
Oh no,
she just plays too young though.
She does play too young.
I think she'd be, but somebody of that ilk and of that caliber, I think that you get, but she just come off as too young. I think you need somebody plus 5 years is my preference, or at most minus 2 years from what Henry Cavill's age is. So if they get
I'm still on the Rachel McAdams thing, but she's not a big star. But I've always
she was terrific in Multiverse of Madness, though. She really.
Gal Gadot still want to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I forget she's in there.
Does Gal still want to be Wonder Woman?
But see, that's the key here, because at the end of the day, you're talking about box office and you're talking about what's going to get a general audience to see it. And I think about this all the time, because I'm firmly behind Cavill, and I agree with what Garrett said, that I do think that's where they're headed, that there is going to be this crisis, and you're going to see people go and some people stay. And I'll be quite honest with you. If I had my pick, it would be Cavill. As much as I love Affleck and I would like to see him play Batman, I don't think he cares about it. And I don't want somebody that doesn't really want to play the role. And we know Cavill eats, sleeps, and dreams about playing Superman. So I want him to be the guy that stays. But if he stays, it's like an NFL team. If he's going to be the quarterback, you got to get him some talent, some really, really big talent around him, so that he could become a franchise guy.
I like it.
Can't
you
do
know what
it
else I like is Longbox's suggestion of Rashida Jones. Like, she's got that energy that you need for a Lois Lane. I think
sure,
killer.
Yeah,
I think she'd be killer. But yeah,
nice. So obviously the last point that I want to hammer home here and give it to Javi. Yeah, go ahead.
Come on, Javi, let's go.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna be able to compete with like Carlos's universe. But
give me the Javi voice. Let's go.
Kind of similar to what Mario was thinking too. Like, I was reading Superman versus Lobo this week. And Lobo's been
coincidentally enough,
we've seen him against in like the Eradicator story and the animated series. He was on Krypton, I think, for a hot minute. So, but he's not really, I don't think, quite as mainstream as some of the other people. I just want someone fresh. Like, I think you have to have Lex, even if it's like for 3 minutes of the movie. Like, he should always be there in the background, but I don't want to see Lex as the main thing. I don't want to see General Zod anymore. As much as I love the Donner stuff, I mean, Zack Snyder had it right in Man of Steel to like start everything all over. Like, we need to move on from that and create a new legend. So, and I think to do that, like, we need to bring in some fresh blood when it comes to the villains. Like, he has more than just Lex and Zod, and we need to utilize that bench. And Lobo is not, I wouldn't call him like a traditional Superman villain by any stretch, but it would expand the DCU. And I think there's an interesting dynamic that they're both last sons. And not only are they both last sons, but they're like polar opposites. So you have like that drama and tension because Lobo is the antithesis of Clark. And something that Black Label book plays up is Lobo somehow hijacks something, and there's like basically I think it's called Lexer. It's like the Lex Luthor version of Twitter, and everyone's on it, and they start like a hashtag like "Don't Save Me, Superman," and all this negative public sentiment that he has to combat. And so it plays in nicely with where we are as a society. And you can get obviously some action and fights in there as well. But one of the things I really want to see more is the romance, like Mr. C was saying. Like, that's what brought me into the character, was seeing Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain and their chemistry together. And that's what I love about Welling and Durrance, and what I love about on the new show. And I want more than 3 minutes of them in the bathtub together. Like, I want to see their relationship and how they support each other, and what their differences are, and build on that, and have it be something, not just a threat, existential threat, but like, what's going on in Clark's personal life? What is he dealing with? Because that's the Superman I relate to, is not the strange visitor aspect, but his humanity. And if we can bring something like that to make people, relate to the character and not have him be like some distant thing, and show why he is cool. And I think if you can nail that balance, like that's going to be where the longevity is going to come from. And yeah. So I mean, even if we jump forward into their narrative, where he's been Superman for a few years, and maybe they're established as a couple, either they're getting engaged or in the middle of it, but have them be on the road to getting married, so we can kind of lean into that future that we're seeing on the CW right now and in the current comics.
I would agree with you, and it needs to be lighter. It doesn't need to be a dark, necessarily take. The threat can be diabolical, but it just needs to feel like some levity there, And I mean, I completely agree. Like I said, it's there for them. It's just I don't know what James Gunn is thinking. See, who knows?
That's definitely true. So my thing, just to give mine here, and then we'll obviously move on, because I think I want to obviously take this in a way that I think all of you guys may know where I'm going with this, because I think nobody's addressed it just yet, and I think it's obviously an X factor here. But look, whether or not this character should be in the movie, my thing is obviously, look, I want to feel the way about a solo Superman movie, the way that Top Gun Maverick made me feel. That's my thing. The way that I cared about a 40-year-old legacy character in Maverick. That's how I want to feel about Superman. That's essentially what my thing is. So my movie is, look, and do I want to see him solo? Of course. But I think he needs to be with Supergirl in a movie together. Look, whether or not they should build up to it first, I think is beside the point. Because I'm at a point where, like, I don't know how long it's going to take them to make a movie. Maybe it's 3 years, it's 5 years. If you have the characters there, I think you should use them. And I think the MCU continues to prove that time and time again. So whether or not they should do Superman solo first, tease Supergirl, and then do the team up, I would rather, if the story is there, you do it. I think a Superman and Supergirl movie with Brainiac, or hell, make it Livewire and Parasite. Either way, it still writes itself. So, and I think her next to him is just even better, because I think that actually probably solves it, to be quite honest. I think she could easily fill that John Kent role in comics right now. I mean, I'm just imagining like this veteran Superman that's been doing it for 10 years. And, here's his cousin Kara, who's alone in the world. And what's more relatable than looking after your own family, right? I think that's essentially how you solve it, is that now he has to be there for her. And it could be like this beautiful legacy passing of the torch that, yes, it would be kind of, I guess, sidetracking his own movie. We just got him back, and the movie is essentially setting up Supergirl to eventually take over. I know, I get it. But again, I'm all about the story, right? And I think there's definitely a beautiful story in there, and whether or not we want it now or we build up to it, I don't know. But Emmett, do you counter my point? Where's your head at? Should Supergirl be in the next Superman movie? What do you think?
I don't know, but I think if they put her in the Flash, we don't really know what's to come after that. And obviously we haven't seen how, Sasha is going to be as Supergirl. We have no idea. But to have a Supergirl in this universe is cool. It's just another branch of the Superman universe. I like the idea of the Maverick and the Rooster thing, kind of, that you're talking about with Maverick. I think is what you're getting at. So I like the teacher, the wise one, as it were, kind of, guiding the young, whichever version of Supergirl they're using. I'm not sure if we know that yet or not. But yeah, I don't know if we should, but I don't know if it'll be a waste, because we don't know what Sasha's going to be like yet. So we can't really say whether or not it's a waste to bring her in and then not use her, because maybe she's awful. Which is very possible, but just to have a Supergirl in this universe, I think is a cool thing. And I do think that Sasha was picked for a reason. She was picked over like 400 women. They tested and they picked her for a reason. Andy Muschietti picked her for a reason. So you would think that that Andy knows what he's doing by picking her. And I do hope they have plans for more Superman stuff as well. It would be cool to get stuff outside of just a Superman movie, if there's like a small Superman universe with a Supergirl aspect of it, and eventually if they ever get to John for Son of Kal-El stuff. So I'm okay with the expansion of Superman universe. I don't know about Supergirl stuff, just because I don't really know about the Sasha character yet, but I hope, Zeddy, I hope it all comes to fruition like you're hoping it will.
Yeah, again, this is all just pure
on the
hope
flip
and
side
speculation on my end. But Carlos, follow up on that.
Well, why don't we just have Cavill show up as Superman in a Supergirl movie, where that way you don't have to try and reestablish Superman and then establish your Supergirl forward. You just take wherever we leave her off at the end of the Flash, and that way you can spend the majority of your time focusing on her, knowing it's a Supergirl movie. You don't have to worry about Lois. You don't have to worry about Clark Kent. You don't have to worry about all those things in his world, but you can have him in there coming in as a mentor character. And maybe she's displaced, where she's from, not only has she lost her planet, but she's also lost her universe, and she's now in this universe, having left the one that she inhabited with the Flash movie, and then having him bring her in and foster her and introduce her to getting acclimated to this world and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's where you go with Supergirl, but I think you need to have a strong Superman solo film just to really establish him and sell him to the general audience and everybody else. But at the same time, you can maximize the impact of that movie by having him very quickly thereafter interjected into a Supergirl movie. And it doesn't have to be a team-up movie or anything like that. Just use him sparingly. Use him about as much as you'd use Lois Lane in a Superman movie and have her carry the film. And that way you could probably have your cake and eat it too in that regard.
Yeah. Mr. C, what do you think? Because obviously you already brought up the MCU point, right? And I kind of did it a little bit, right? Is that, you know, they continue to obviously use these characters in and out of movies. You know, obviously you can look at something like a Spider-Man Homecoming, you know, where how Tony Stark was used in that movie. Maybe that's how they can use Supergirl in a Superman movie. Well, he's not the main character. He's a really strong supporting character in a movie, you know, but is that, you know, the key to, you know, it's obviously what you're talking about in that he needs somebody strong next to her. And assuming she's a hit, do you just go ahead right away and build Supergirl in a Superman movie? Do you build her organically? You know, what do you think?
Well, we're going to have to wait to see the Flash.
Yeah.
For me to give you an answer on that. It's hard to say that I want to see that. And I'm assuming she's probably going to be pretty good, but I don't know how much she's in it. We'll have to see what the audience says. I have to sidetrack here because I got to ask this question. My mind wanders all over the place, but during this whole conversation, nobody's brought up The Rock.
Wow.
It's Superman
just
versus
like the rest
Black
of
Adam.
the world.
Take it away, guys. Is that even possible still, or what's going on with this? Because at the end of the day, we started this thing, and The Rock brought him back. Yeah. And we've just spent 56 minutes talking about it, and we've mentioned Black Adam, but I want to hear from all of you. Like, is that even in play anymore? Is The Rock? Where are we at?
That is the farthest thing from my mind right now, Mr. C.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see Black Adam versus Captain Marvel way before we get to Superman and Black Adam. Like, I get why they want to do it, and I'm foreseeing that at some point, but let's get a Henry Cavill Superman movie right first and perfected before we start branching them out and worry about, you know, The Rock. Because hopefully The Rock is in for a good run. And, you know, let's get him a little more. I hope so.
Is he though? I don't know. That's he's got gun coming in now. And like I'm just, this thing is fascinating to me. Mario, what do you think? Where's The Rock?
I mean, I think it's fascinating that like there was all this hype about Black Adam for like months and months and months leading to it. And if you've been following The Rock in social media or interviews for the last like 10 years, you know, you've been hearing a steady flow of hype about Black Adam. And within a week, nobody was talking about that movie anymore. Like it's crazy how much it came and it went. And it does put the context here in an interesting light because it's like it brought us Superman back, but yet even that little fact leaking to the internet didn't help the film become some runaway success. You know what I mean? Like it vastly kind of underperformed what I thought it could have done. You know, I personally thought this thing could do like what Venom had done in similar release windows there in October.
Absolutely.
And Venom was critic proof. So even when Black Adam didn't really have great critical praise, I'm like, but it's still a cool character and people are going to buy in and it's, you know, it's going to do Venom numbers. And the fact that like it's barely going to squeak by like 400 million or something, you know, and now you have The Rock going around kind of like, you know, a minute ago, the hierarchy of power is going to change forever. And now he's like, we're just the babies. We're the babies, new little guys. Give us time to grow. We're just these little, you know,
we're
like
Steve
it's
Biscuit.
just
let us come
It's just been weird to watch, like the hype and then the disappearance of Black Adam, the fact that the general audiences roundly kind of shrugged it off. So yeah, is there any urgency now to follow up on that? I'm not really sure there is, and I'm personally pretty fine with that. You know, and in general, I just think the question mark of where Black Adam now sits in all of this, it's going to be interesting to see what Gunn thinks. You know, now that him and Safran are putting together the biggest story ever told, I wonder how big of a part Black Adam is going to figure into it now that his movie just came and went and was forgotten and didn't do great, and the critics didn't like it. That's not a good,
it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison, because Venom had a long runway without really much competition, where it caught everyone by surprise. And if maybe Black Adam came out during the summer, it would have better legs. But I mean, when you're up against the MCU funeral for Chadwick Boseman, you're not the oxygen's going to get sucked out of the room.
But
there's just no two ways about it.
You don't get the
but it didn't even. I saw Black Adam. I enjoyed Black Adam. I'm a big JSA fan. But Carlos, I want to throw to you too, because I know you're a big rock fan. But it really did feel like you got two camps here. You got the camp that says it's fine, it's an infant movie, it's got to grow, and then you got the other camp that says it was a disaster. I'm of the belief that it was neither one of those to the extreme, but there's no way The Rock and WB are happy with what it did. And it had 3 weeks on its own before Black Adam, so it had time. And its first week wasn't that great, and then it just plummeted the second week. And he has been quiet. He's been humbled by this a little bit, I think, The Rock, because there's really not much that he could kind of beat his chest about and say. So my whole thinking is just the irony of it is that it was him that brought Cavill back, because Cavill, we know, doesn't come back. Yeah, that's true. James Gunn's wife is in
just
Black
the
Adam.
news cycle itself just swallowed any talk about the movie whole, because it became not about like what's next for Black Adam, but what's next for the DCU under this new leadership.
Yeah. I guess for me, Carlos, I didn't feel like after the first week there was much talk about Black Adam. That's just me. I don't know. And I tried, because I wanted it. For Cavill alone, I wanted it to be a monster.
Yeah, like I think there was a bit of an overestimation about what The Rock would bring as far as being a box office draw. Like, I think they needed to just focus on the fact that he has a certain cachet that he will bring in, and you needed to not look across the aisle at the MCU movies, but you needed to just look at stuff like Hobbs and Shaw or Skyscraper or what was the other one, like San Andreas or Jumanji or whatever, and that's where you're looking. Ultimately, there's two things. Like, there's a lot of talk of Venom, but like, you underappreciate, I think, or not you specifically, but the conversation, like, people underappreciate how massively popular Venom is. Like, Venom was the most popular character in Marvel Comics for all of the 90s.
It's true.
And
Black Adam was never that. You're right. Yeah.
Black Adam was never even remotely,
not in the conversation.
Yeah.
And like, just look at the number of Black Adam titled comic book series that we've had since the inception of Venom till now. And it's like, for every one Black Adam comic book or guest appearance that's been printed, there's been 35 of Eddie Brock, Venom, or some other symbiote kind of thing. So it's really not an apples to apples comparison, because you have this character that people loved in comic books, that caught wildfire, was everywhere, was all over animated series. Heck, they had a Spider-Man animated series that was based on Venom and Carnage going to some weird planet and Spider-Man having to chase him. Right? Like, the character is huge.
And he was in Spider-Man 3, which did $800 million. So, I mean, it's not like a long time ago. But here, you bring up a good point, but I think even when you compare Black Adam against The Rock's movies, it's still kind of mid, right?
It was like his biggest opening.
Right. So but when you look at the overall box office, it's not going to come close to the Jumanji movies.
No.
Like, those doubled it.
Yeah,
of them.
I think
know?
the other couple things that factor in, like Garrett's been saying in the comments, like the release date change. Ironically, the release date change not only hurt Black Adam, but it also hurt Super Pets. I think if those two movies retain their original dates, like Black Adam does really well in that late August window with the kids in the States being back in school. You'll be able to get some traction with just your adults and your older audiences going to see that one. And then once the kids have a breather at this point in time in the year, I think Super Pets would have done better. And yeah, ultimately, I don't know what you do. I think now you're in a position where Black Adam needs Superman more than Superman needs Black Adam. And so you probably build your Black Adam sequel to being the Superman versus Black Adam fight, right? And like I don't know, like I don't even know that like people keep beating that drum, and it's like, yeah, he's a Captain Marvel villain, but ish, like for the last 20 years of DC Comics, Black Adam has kind of been his own guy, right? In Kahndaq, and he's primarily been fighting the Justice Society or the other DC Universe characters. And the other thing too is like the most recent run of Shazam, he goes and rescues the Shazam family from the Funland. So I don't know. There's lots of ways you can play it and whatnot. I do think that they overestimated what Black Adam would do, but I definitely think the release date hurt it. And the other thing too is that like had that got good critical reviews, had like the tomato been red, I think it's a different conversation, right? But because the audience is already skeptical about DC, it's like they will. I think those reviews are more important to DC than they are to Marvel, because with the DC films, your audience is already a bit gun shy. So yeah,
he's got his hands full, Mr. Gunn.
I do want to say, bringing it back to Cavill specifically and his Superman, I think it's such a bummer that Black Adam continues the trend of him never appearing in a film that is just an unequivocal success. Where it's just a smash and everybody loves it and it did well and it was just bam, a hit, and now we move on to the next great big thing for this Superman. You know, every step of the way it's been a bit of a struggle. Man of Steel was divisive. BVS was divisive even more so. Justice League, whether the theatrical or the Zack Snyder's got, you know, it's very kind of like, you know, it's kind of a partisan conversation. And now you have Black Adam. Like, he's never just been a part of a movie that was just bam, a beautiful, successful thing. The people loved it. The critics loved it. It made a ton of money.
Too.
I mean, it's just, you know, his run as Superman has been kind of like in certain ways like cursed, and it's not his fault.
Cursed.
It's not his fault. He's great. He was born to play this part, but for whatever reason, whenever he suits up, it's in a movie where the other people involved make it a lot less watchable and a lot less well received. You know, it's just like, so frustrating.
It's a shame. It really is a shame, Z. What do they need to do to get him right?
Yeah, well, obviously, I want to take this one in another direction, and I got one last question here, because look, I've seen this comparison so many times that in history would show you that it actually probably leans the other way, and that Batman's arguably been more successful when he's alone. So Superman's had, you know, obviously 78 and Superman 2 are probably the most highly regarded Superman films out there. Superman Returns, I like it, don't love it, but it probably could have done better and more. But you know, can he really be with the Justice League and be the character that we want him to be? Right? Like, obviously, with Batman, we still don't even know to an extent too. Like I said, to each his own. We got his sample size in the theatrical cut of Justice League. People don't like that very much. Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think a lot of people like both versions a little bit better. But you know, can Superman, you know, exist, you know, with the Justice League and be the character that we want him to be when the MCU continues to grow, and we've already had Captain America and Iron Man do it before. So, you know, can we have a Batman and Superman like that in this modern age? I mean, what do you think?
Can we? Well, we should. Like, Superman's the greatest superhero of all time, and he leads the greatest superhero team of all time.
That's right.
So absolutely he should. So like Mario, it's funny. He should be the lead.
My costume.
Yeah, he should be the leader of the team. There should be a grandiose, epic, beautiful Justice League movie where Superman is at the head of the table. And I hope that's what they're building towards. I assume that's what they're building towards. I don't think it's I don't think James Gunn is a stupid man where he doesn't want to, like he mentioned, the biggest story. That is the biggest story, is having the best superheroes in comics together on screen together with the best superhero leading them. So I absolutely think that should be the goal, 100%.
That was a good quote by that last gentleman, Zeddy.
Yeah.
So I think
it's a fair point.
I think what we're talking about the Justice League again, because we've got solo films coming next year, right? With the Flash and with Aquaman again, and we're told there's a Wonder Woman 3 in the works. And I think there needs to be a Superman solo film first and foremost next before a Justice League film.
Yes.
But I can only speak for myself. I'm not a real young guy anymore. And I'm not looking to wait 10 more years for another Justice League movie. So I don't think you need to. And I think the notion that you have to like roll off like 6 or 7 years of solo movies again, I think that's a bunch of crap, because you can do this thing right. Gunn can do it. He took a team of characters nobody knew about and made them household names. So it can be done. Superman needs to be better alone. They need to make a movie for him. They can do it. And he can be both. There's no doubt about it, because like Emmett says, he's the second greatest. Now he might be the third greatest superhero behind Batman and Spider-Man.
You Italians and your Spider-Man.
And my Spider-Man.
Oh, hey, watch Batman Beyond.
Come
on now.
Right?
Even Terry knows what's up. Come on now. There you go.
But here's the deal. Superman has to be the leader of the Justice League. There's no doubt about it. Batman is not the leader of the Justice League. He's there. He's the brains, and Superman's going to lean on him from time to time. But at the end of the day, everybody follows Superman. He's the inspiration. He's the guy that they trust. Batman's the guy they rely on for a lot, but they don't trust him.
Agreed.
Well, and to Eric's point too, like, why are we talking about Justice League? Because we want a Justice League movie. We want to see the characters on screen. It's just something we as DC fans just want to see so badly. And like Mario was saying, like every time we see Cavill, he gets shit on. We don't want to see our favorite characters shit on. We want to see them at the top of the mountain, with the best reviews and the best box office and all of the good stuff. That's why we want Justice League so bad.
On top of that, too, we have Blue Balls from 2017, where we all wanted Justice League, and we got a crappy movie. In theory, we got a very okay movie that was forgettable and average at best. And, we still haven't gotten that all-time classic Justice League movie. So while the Marvel fans have been really well fed over the last 10 years, we're still waiting for one.
And they're getting 2 more.
Yeah. Like, come on. I think that's why we still have Blue Balls from 2017.
Exactly.
There you go. All right. So I am actually going to now pose the last question here. And that is, when do we expect to see a new solo Superman film? So, Carlos, your best educated guess. When would you like to see a Superman movie, and when do you think we will see another Superman movie?
Late 25, early 26. So kind of that 3 years-ish window. I do think that we'll see him in small pieces before that. Like, I do think that he'll cameo in a Wonder Woman 3. I wouldn't be surprised if they've added him to the Flash. But I think that they're you'll hear tangible movement forward on where this is going by the end of this year, and they'll be in front of cameras in the end of next year, early 24 kind of thing. They're not going to wait. And it's like, really, like, even just for financial reasons, for purely financial reasons, WB needs to get some big glitzy superhero movies out into the public eye, and like Joker's not going to be it, right? Joker's not going to be it. Batman is not going to be it. Like, those movies will be huge, or at least the Batman will be. But I think within 3 years you'll have tangible movement forward on like your Wonder Woman 3 will be in front of cameras and your Superman movie will be in front of cameras.
Javi, what do you think? When are we going to see a new Superman movie?
I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, and to echo what Carlos is saying, I mean, we're looking at a minimum. I want it tomorrow, but realistically, it's going to be a minimum of 3 years. So Christmas 2025, probably more realistically, June of 2026 would be my guess. I mean, I'd love it to be sooner, but I don't think that's going to happen at all. Just given the logistics of everything. So yeah, that's where I'm putting my chips at.
Mario?
I'm going with they're going to announce the movie and the writer and the director and everything spring of 2023. Get into production later on in 2023, film through 2024, and give us a movie in 2025, maybe the summer. That's what I'm thinking.
Mr. C?
I think 2025 is going to be the year of the world's finest, not together. But I think you're going to see Reeves in the Batman 2. And I think you're going to see the Superman movie. I think that Zaslav is going to get Reeves to push him along a little bit here. The Penguin series is going to come out. And I think that you'll see that first and you'll see a Superman movie towards the end of the year. That's optimistic. I'm being very optimistic there. But what you guys are saying, it can happen. I mean, I don't think they hired Gunn and Safran to just kind of sit around and announce something in January. I think like they're going to announce the plan. We know they've got the money to do it, and you can get this thing. You can start these things quicker now. A lot of this stuff is green screen anyway. Look at how the MCU does it. They crank these movies out pretty fast. I know we make fun. They delay movies and for the VFX and all that, but you can shoot these movies quicker than the pace that Warner Brothers goes on. The reason DC's lagged behind is because they quite literally didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
And these movies are all being pushed back for more than just VFX. There's so much stuff going behind the scenes that if you believe it's just solely for that, I don't buy that for a second.
Well,
you have to make it worth going to the theater for.
Yes.
So it's going to take the time to do the VFX, because if I want to see a decent looking Superman, I can throw on the CW app and HBO Max.
Right.
Because that's looking pretty good with, modern day effects. You need to put that money on the screen and deliver the spectacle that is going to make someone want to go see it at home. You need that event aspect. And to your point about the Marvel template, like they really need to take a look at like the Captain America movies, because he's like the closest equivalent that they have to like Superman, where he's more of like the goody, and you need to bring in the heart. And we know James Gunn can do that. I mean, he made Polka Dot Man one of the best characters of the Suicide Squad and made you believe that everyone could face off against Starro the Conqueror and not make it like completely ridiculous. So if he can do that with those characters, I'm sure he can shepherd it to where it needs to go.
Yeah. The other thing too is
Sorry,
I wouldn't be to build on your point, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up directing the thing, just to be like, screw it, knowing that it's their most important project and the one they have to get right.
Wow.
I could definitely see him just taking the bull by the horns and off we go. Right. So, yeah.
Well, we know he turned it down, right? He was offered it. He was offered anything he wanted, and they brought that up. That would be interesting.
Yeah, a totally different scenario though, right? Where now he has a big bullseye on him. Well, and the other thing too to remember about Warner Brothers, like honestly, right up until last year, and the MCU, the difference is that Warner Brothers and their management and their exec has never believed truly in the DC characters and what they could be as far as assets and creative assets, right? So really, I don't think we would even be having this conversation today if it wasn't for the MCU being as successful as it was, as it is, and that their shareholders are like, dudes, we don't care about you doing Don't Worry, Darling at all. You need to make movies that'll make money for us, type of thing, right? So, like David Zaslav from the Kevin Sugiharas and Toby Emmerichs and everybody else in between, he is the first guy to come out and say DC needs to be on Front Street and we need to do as much with this brand as we can.
That's true.
Right? So
yep. He's been vocal. He said what, as a DC fan, he's saying what you want to hear.
Oh, totally. Man, right. Like my boy Troy is the biggest David Zaslav fan you could ever find. He's like, I don't give a shit about any of the other stuff Warner Brothers does. This guy keeps talking about doing DC Comics things and is making a Jackson's Victory Tour documentary. Sign me up. Best executive in Hollywood.
Go ahead, Mario. What were you going to say?
Oh, no. I was going to ask you, since you're a Top Gun Maverick guy, if you thought the director of that might have the chops for Superman, because I've heard some people mention it would be interesting because of the flying and because of the way he handled that. He might be able to shoot a really exhilarating looking Superman movie.
That's actually who my pick is, whether or not he directs it or he's a screenwriter, just because you can argue, the direction of that movie is the best part. And who would have ever thought that a sequel to Top Gun is the biggest movie of this year? And look, a movie doesn't direct itself. I mean, you can say Tom Cruise had a hand in it all you want, but it all goes down to the director. So I think
what if it's Kosinski and Cruise is Lex Luthor?
Now you're talking.
That's box office right there, baby.
You need star power.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, look, the other name on the short list and out there, you can look it up if you want, but obviously there's a guy who was very much in charge of the Harry Potter franchise. I'm talking about David Yates. I know he's the other name that's been thrown out there. That's no secret, but my choice is Kaczynski, but that's my choice. If everybody wants anything different, that's your prerogative. But I think you guys are on the money, and I think we're bound to see something in 25, maybe 26, but I think we're getting the Trinity of DC actually in 1 year. So I think we're going to get a Batman solo movie, most likely Reeves. I think we're going to get Wonder Woman 3, and I think we're getting Superman all in 1 year together. And I think that's how you get DC back on top, is you bring the Trinity back in full force. That's what I think is going to happen.
But does it count as the Trinity if the Batman in this equation is in a totally different universe than the other two?
I think as long as you're establishing that the brand is back on top, I think that's what matters right now.
Yeah.
Because I think we're all assuming that if he brings a new Batman in anyway, it's not going to be like another solo Batman series. Like Robert Pattinson's obviously going to be the guy for the next half decade. So I'm assuming this new Batman, if it is a more prime Batman, is just the Justice League Batman anyway.
Make him a CG Batman and just never have him out of the mask. Off you go. Like you could at this, because I think your Batman in your shared universe needs to have a massively reduced role.
Yeah.
Like almost non-existent. And
really,
you let your prime
you let
Batman
the other people in the That's that old question. Can you do a Justice League movie without Batman?
No, you have to have him, but you
you
definitely don't. You should put Batman in the same position that you had Aquaman in or Cyborg in your Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Just flip them on a screen time and focus.
Any chance Pattinson?
Zero. I don't think they want to alienate Reeves. I don't think Pattinson has an interest in doing that. And they've, even just from a business perspective, keeping those separate makes sense because you're hedging your bet a bit, right? Where you have this franchise that's kind of insulated and will continue to make you money because you've established it now, right? So if this stuff falls apart, you still have this making you money. But if you smash them together and it all fails, you're toast. So yeah, creatively, financially, I don't think there's any chance that Pattinson becomes your shared universe Batman.
Nice. And we're all under the impression that the next Superman movie that we see will star Henry Cavill. Are we in agreement on that? Does anybody disagree that won't be the case?
I'm not sure that the next solo Superman movie has Henry Cavill.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
Mr. C.
That's why we're doing the stream.
I'm sure he's going to be there for next year in the cameos and stuff, but I'm at this point, I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I mean,
Emmett?
I would say it's 50-50 right now, like
Okay.
with Gunn.
Anybody
That
else
Gunn's
want
a
to take?
stinker, man. He does what he wants to do, James Gunn. He
But
doesn't
also,
listen. He doesn't follow anybody. He really doesn't. He hasn't. I mean,
well, but if you think about it, in Peacemaker, when he brought the Justice League in, right?
that
He
was
only really needed Flash and Aquaman because they're the
Yeah.
only two that had lines, and he could have that scene would have worked just as well with just them because you freaking had Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa. But he went out of his way to also show the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman silhouette and a Henry Cavill Superman silhouette. It's like in Gunn's canon for the DCU. That is his Justice League lineup. And I feel like he's a Henry Cavill guy. So I don't think, I think that bodes well.
That's good to bring up.
Henry's
And I don't disagree with you, but I still am not completely 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the internet, right? Nobody has a contract right now. That's not, speculation. He tweeted that out there. So we're all assuming that he's going to give everybody at least another contract. What that contract looks like, none of us have any clue. But we're all assuming that Cavill is going to be the guy. Does anybody else not think it's not going to be him? Emmett, Avi, Carlos?
I assume it was going to be him.
Okay.
That's why he's in Black Adam. But like, it's tough because we talked about the release change of Black Adam. If it was in the summer, Cavill wouldn't have been in the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then we would have. Then we don't know what the conversation would have been like. But if you're not having Cavill as Superman, then you don't have Gal as as Wonder Woman, and you don't have Momoa. Like, why drop Cavill just because of the box office? Well, then you could do the same thing. I guess you could do that for Gal after Wonder Woman 84 because nobody liked Wonder Woman 84. I guess so. Like, why cut the one? Is my point. I don't know why would you just cut the one? Scrap it all. That's what I'm here for. If you're gonna do one, why not just do all and start fresh after the Flash, or I guess after Blue Beetle, because poor old Blue Beetle is still coming out after the Flash apparently. So I just assume it's Cavill because I assume that Gunn wants to continue this crew, the JL 17, 2017 crew. I just assume that's what he wants, but we have no idea. Maybe in 2 months he's going to come out, announce a slate, and say, no, we're going to start over with a new Superman movie, a new Wonder Woman movie. I don't really know. And like Mr. C said, like, a month ago we would have said yes 100% Cavill. But now there's the crappy reports coming out that there's no contract and there's no this and there's no that. So it is hard to know without knowing. And apparently there's only two people that know.
Well, if it helps your theory at all, Peter Safran's a producer on Aquaman. He has a vested interest in making sure that Jason Momoa's Aquaman persists, right? Like, honestly, like we haven't talked about Zachary Levi not being Shazam anymore. Like, if anybody's aging out of a role, it's that guy. But they're keeping all of them around because Peter Safran has a vested interest in.
How old is Zachary Levi?
He's like 40, I think, and is at least close to it.
I'm just going to say this. I know I'm the lone guy here. I'm not the big Shazam
He actually might
fan,
be the same age as Cavill.
But he does not. It did not look good on the big screen.
He's old enough. He has to dye his hair.
He just does not look young. He looks like an older dude. His face, his skin. I don't mean to be, but that's what I saw. And I mean, like just talking about Cavill versus that. Like, Cavill looks like
Levi's 3 years older than Cavill.
Wow. And he looks every bit of it. I want to say he looks about 10 to 15 years older than Cavill.
Well, he's definitely got one more Shazam movie in him, that's for sure.
But he's got that youthful energy though.
He does.
That plays a
big
part of it.
He does.
Well, I think that says something that we're
it's Zeddy's sleeper hit.
Though.
We'll see how much of his sleeper hit Shazam 2 is.
That might be a sleeper hit for other reasons, though.
Other than like the kids in Shazam, like I don't think that age really. I don't know if it plays a part anymore. If you look at the MCU, like we brought up earlier, how old is Robert Downey Jr.? How old does Mark Ruffalo look?
Yeah,
but no one's talking about how old they are. No one's talking about how old Don Cheadle is, and he's going to be. Rhodey one more time in a movie now. So I don't necessarily think it matters.
I think Downey it's because Asher. I don't think Downey looked. I thought Downey always looked good as Tony Stark. They made him look young. He looks
Well, yeah, and you can play around with it, right? It's just like Tim brought up in our last
that
show,
Hollywood.
like Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth when Zeus blasts his clothes off, he does not look that good. That was all airbrushing and digital effects after the fact, right? Like he's a fit guy, but so if you can do that there, you can, touch up faces and make these guys look a lot better than they actually look in real life, right? So
well, I think, and the thing with Shazam and the age, I think the tricky part there is that Billy Batson is becoming an adult already, pretty much. Yeah. That actor is with every year, So I'm like, in another year or two, he's just going to be a grown up turning into another grown up.
Well, that's what they did with Mary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mary.
They did. Yeah.
But hey, I do think it's funny that we had a little side Black Adam chat one. Originally, we were actually not going to get Henry Cavill Superman in there. It was going to be a shadowy figure, and what that would have done to the character of Superman as a whole would have been a whole nother live stream. So I guess we got what we got, and I guess we should be a little thankful that we got the real thing and not that, because that'd have been catastrophic, I think, for everybody all around. But one last thing we obviously need to touch on, and Emmett actually brought this up to me, and it's actually a cool thing too, because if we think about it, look, yes, there is a rumored cameo of him in another DC movie next year, but there's also what's being deemed as the year of Superman in comics and merch. And obviously he's had a nice resurgence, I would say, as of late in comics, but Emmett, you brought this up to me, so just touch on what this means for the character as a whole, and why should we care, and how cool is it?
Well, it's very cool being a comic fan. Like DC is labeling 2023 the year of Superman, but 2022 was a freaking awesome year for Superman comics.
Yes.
Like there were just so many good comics, and there's been a lot like since Rebirth and afterwards, that like Superman in comics has been very good for a very long time. When Philip Kennedy Johnson writing Action Comics, where he's like did the weirdest thing, like, oh, let's just take Superman, take Clark off world, and we'll just take him, he'll do his own thing on Warworld, and then we'll give Tom Taylor a Son of Kal-El book, and like, oh, well, that sounds weird, but it worked totally, and it was awesome. And now Clark's back, and they're continuing on with the John stuff. So it's just, again, like, I don't care who writes Superman. I don't care who draws Superman. I don't care who plays Superman. I just want to see and read good Superman. And there's been a lot of it. Javi's been talking about, Superman and Lois. There's been a lot of good Superman too, on the small screen. So in the comics, it's just awesome, because the books have been very, very good for people who, don't get Superman or don't like Superman. There is comic books for those people as well. And I think that's what DC is doing right now with the Kal-El stuff, or the Son of Kal-El stuff. And then the stuff with the, the return of Kal-El to Earth with the, I think it's Action Comics 1050. It comes out next month. It's kind of like the relaunch of Clark on Earth again. Like, it's a very exciting time for being a DC comic book fan, when you read and you hear stuff about, or bad stuff about Superman. As we're talking about, it's not a good thing when Superman's shit upon. But like these comics books, 2023, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to read more, because everything that came in 2022 was just as good. And I hope 2023 is just even better.
Well said. All right, guys, I think we've hit a crossroads here. So the yellow sun does not dawn forever, although we hope that it dawns just longer this time, and hopefully it's not a red sun. But I think I want to thank you guys, of course, for obviously coming on this stream with me. It was it's actually been an emotional few days for me. Obviously, if you guys have followed me on Twitter, I'm not going to get too much in this, because I'll probably get emotional again. But I did lose a childhood icon of mine. Jason David Frank, who played the green and white Power Ranger, was a big part of my childhood. So this was a great distraction for me. So I thank you guys for giving me the time and to talk about another character that I love. So I thank you guys again. I thank everybody in the comments for saying your takes, for all being respectful as well. And that's the most important part, is we all just wanted to be here and just talk about Superman. So I'm going to give you guys last opportunity. Yeah, go ahead, Mario.
No, I just want to say thank you, Z, for having us. This was a pleasure, and we should do this again sometime.
We absolutely will. Hopefully, the next time we do it, we'll be talking about a directed
The next movie.
written, the next movie. So. Exactly. There you go. So
spring of 2023. I'm done.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna hold you to that now. But obviously, I want to give you guys one last chance. Obviously, you wrap up, put a nice bow on this Superman discussion here, and give your plugs as well. So, Carlos, I'm gonna hand this one right over to you.
Oh, shoot. Well, yeah. Superman is coming no matter what. Like, and it's going to be Henry Cavill. Don't let all the naysaying throw you off. Like, I know, like, historically, like, a lot of scoopers, their sources aren't James Gunn and Peter Safran. Yeah. Their sources are the filing clerks. So, like, quite frankly, when I read that first article from the Wrap saying about the contract not being there, I was like, oh, this guy has somebody who works in the legal department as his source. And he asked them, hey, what contracts have been filed for Superman movies? None. And then it's
by that way, that same guy debunked me when I wrote in May of 2017 that Justice League was seeing significant reshoots. That same reporter in that same publication. So yeah, doesn't always know what they're talking about. Sorry.
Well, there you go, my man. So look, my theory crafting is reinforced by Mario's firsthand experience. So yeah, folks, that article read a lot like I got one source and I got a rent check to pay. So let's put something out into the wild and see what happens. But yeah, like I said, it's happening, just a matter of time. I have all the faith in the world. And if you need to hang your hat on anything, it should be the fact that it has to happen, because WB needs to make money, and the world's greatest superheroes are their fastest, most succinct way to do that. So it'll happen. But yeah, you can follow me at Canadian Cape Crusader on Twitter, where I'm hanging out and where I've met all these fine gentlemen. So yeah, it's a enjoyable time on there from us, because we don't engage with the trolls. And if you like my takes and want to hear me talk about all the nerdy stuff in this world, you can find me at the Nerd Room Podcast, and we put out the show every Thursday, either on your podcast feed and the odd week on our YouTube channel. So check us out. And yeah, thank you, Z, so much for putting this together, man. It was awesome to like sit down and celebrate this thing and actually have a group of guys with some intellectual honesty talking about it, because it is garbage all over the place out there in relation to these topics. So that's our thing on our show, is intellectual honesty. And I love the takes, whether we agreed with each other or disagreed with each other. There was always a bit of a pure heart and a full head that brought whatever was coming to the conversation. So I like it.
I'm glad I did my job, Ari. Thank you. All right, Javi, where can everybody find you? Closing thoughts on Superman.
You can find me at Javi True on Twitter. The Bond is Not Enough on Instagram. I've got reviews on BatmanOnFilm.com, where I'm doing Catwoman right now. Sorry, reviewing Catwoman right now.
We all wish.
If ever there was one. Tatum might have an issue with you right now, you know.
Yeah. Like Batman Returns much?
Yeah. And you know, the James Bond dossier, I've got starting to review the new 007 comic by Action Comics writer Philip K. Johnson.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm just around, but Zeddy, I want to thank you. Because I just mentioned a whole bunch of places. I don't really have a place to talk Superman, and you've always been giving me an outlet to talk the Man of Steel, and I appreciate you, brother, for that. And
thank you.
Side plug, last week I was on the Comic Binge. I was a guest, and we talked Superman's Secret Identity. So if you like the Man of Steel, that is a great gem that does not get talked about enough. And just to kind of dovetail off what Carlos was saying, like, we've been in a desert for a long time when it comes to like big screen Superman. And, you know, we just need to be patient, because we're going to have a little bit of a longer wait, whether it's Cavill or someone else. And hopefully, you know, the wait is a reward and it pays off. But in the meantime, you know, like Emmett was saying, this is the year of Superman in the comics. There's been some great books. And hopefully even more on the horizon. for DC and Superman, and we've got a Superman and Lois season 3 coming up. So there's plenty to get your fix while we're waiting for him to come back to the big screen. So, and it just, again, man, thank you and Mr. Caruso for having me back on. I love you guys.
Thank you
too, brother. Thank you. Emmett, closing thoughts on Superman. Where could everybody find you?
I don't have any other closing thoughts. You guys are doing it better than I can. So you can follow me at Emmett Davis 7. You can follow the show, podcast, YouTube show I do with Chris Evans called Gathering of the Geeks. We're available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Just search Gathering of the Geeks. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate everyone on this show right now. Javi, I read your reviews all the time. Carlos, I listen to you, Tim, all the time, doing the Nerd Room. Mario, I love Superman on Film. You're the best. And V39, I listen to you guys every Monday, Tuesday. I can't wait to disagree with you guys and laugh and have the best time. So I appreciate everyone here right now that I'm talking to. You guys are the best. I love you. Thanks.
Thanks, brother. Love you too.
Yeah, amazing.
Mr. Superman on Film. Round it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So first of all, you could find me on the Twitter at Superman on Film, all one word. I've also got the Fanboy Podcast available in all your podcatchers of choice, as well as on YouTube every Friday afternoon. And in terms of Superman, it just feels pretty damn great to feel like we are about to be very well fed for the first time in ages. As a long-suffering Superman fan who's lived between Superman films waiting for when the next one is going to happen, whether it was waiting from 1987 to 2006 for Superman Returns, or from waiting from 2006 to 2013 for Man of Steel, to now from 2013 to probably 2025 waiting for Man of Steel 2. It spent like I've spent most of my life waiting for when Warner Brothers is going to get their Superman act together. So it feels pretty damn good to know that it seems like whether it's Cavill or not, which I do believe it's going to be, it seems like Zaslav and company want Superman to be front and center. And early reports said that as soon as Warner Brothers Discovery kind of took over, one of the very first things was, hey, these top tier characters like Superman are languishing. What is going on? So the fact that we're going to be well fed on the big screen, and I've got Superman and Lois on the CW, which is feeding me amazingly well, and we got the books coming in strong all of a sudden. It's like there's just Superman, good quality Superman everywhere, and more to come. So it feels pretty great, and I can't wait to have a lot more conversations like these in the future. So thanks for having me, Z, and thanks for everyone who got together today to have this talk. We get to talk about our Man of Steel. How lucky are we? Thank you.
All set. Last person we gotta have give her plugs here is because look, I brought this gentleman on because I know, contrary to belief of listening to our show, he does like Superman. And he understands the importance of the character here.
Of course I do.
And he's one of the guys that obviously I love the DC universe because of Mr. C. I discovered Superman on my own, but it's through his knowledge why I love these characters that I do. So, Mr. C, thank you for joining us, obviously, and just bringing your insight on the character and why he matters and why he should matter more to the DC universe. So, closing thoughts and plugs, sir.
First off, thanks to everybody. You guys are the very best of the best. And nothing makes me feel better than being on Twitter and seeing the interaction. Carlos, Emmett, Javi, Mario, you know that you guys are. It's been a crazy few years here with us with the podcast, and I've gone through some changes here myself. But always a blast to see you guys. Always love being part of anything, talking about it. So thank you for coming on our show. So I always make a joke. Zeddy and I always joke that Batman keeps the lights on at Warner Brothers, right? And I am a cape and cowl guy. There's no doubt about it, but there is no doubt that the world, WB, DC Comics has to have Superman be relevant in the biggest possible way for them to grow this IP, because they will never be anything bigger than what they are now without Superman at the forefront of it. And there's nothing more exciting than Zaslav preaching it. Emmett, you're right about the comics. There should never be a world in DC Comics where Superman is not relevant. and they have dropped the ball. Zeddy, we've talked about this on our show. They've dropped the ball for several years.
Yeah.
It's time. I agree with Mario. It's coming. I pretty much believe it's going to be Cavill. In my heart, I hope it's him. But whatever it is, I do believe that the intent is going to be there and that it's going to happen. It needs to happen. It has to happen. He has to be relevant for DC, for Warner Brothers.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, I guess, look, the last thing that I can really hammer home is I can only agree with you guys. Look, it's going to be a matter of time. It's coming. I hope it's Cavill. I think it will be Cavill. But look, just see it. I think the sheer importance of there just being one Superman movie that everybody resonates with and loves. I think that's the most important part, is that people can finally fall in love with this character again for the first time since arguably Superman 2, say for what you will, or Superman 78, whichever side of the fence you fall on. I think it's important that the grandfather of DC needs to have his time on the big screen. And not to give myself goosebumps here, but I think they're going to get this one right. And I truly believe that. So when that time comes, I cannot wait to watch it. I can't wait to talk about it with all of you guys, and let's get Superman right, man. He needs to get right. That's the most important part that we all hammered home on this stream. So again, I want to reiterate that I thank all of you guys for joining me as well. Everybody in the comments, please give us a like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. It helps it grow. And for our friends in the U.S. here, for everybody in the United States, I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a very blessed Happy New Year. So that's going to do it for this Superman live stream. On our world, it means hope. And don't ever forget that. So for Nick Caruso Jr., for Mario Francisco Robles, for Carlos, for Emmett Davis, for Hobby, my name is Zeddy. And as Michael Keaton's Batman always says, I know it's Batman, but we got to say it. I want you to tell all your friends about me.